Now, before we get started and bring our students up here to show you the work that they have done, I want to just say a couple of words to set the stage for us, because this is sort of an interesting year. So I want to talk a little bit about it to set the context for where we are today. I read an article in The Economist a few months back, and this article starts like this. It says 100,000 Americans are dead. A space expedition underscores American ingenuity during this time of virus. All across the country, cities are erupting in the greatest protest for racial justice that we have seen in a generation. And in November, voters will have to choose between a law and order Republican and a somewhat uninspiring Democratic vice president. The year is 1968. This blew my mind. It blew my mind because it had not occurred to me to think of this particular moment as a historic moment. I had not really seen myself as participating in a historic year. I did not think that it would feel like this. I thought that participating and living through history would feel different, glamorous somehow, I don't know, empowering. And it has not felt that way at all. We have spent much of this year at Resilient Coders struggling, as I'm sure have many of you listening. Now, I want to take us back a bit to April. Quarantine set in 1 month before our last demo day. Now, I want to say that again. 1 month before demo day, we lost almost every single one of our employers who had committed to hiring from that cohort because they were uncertain about the futures of their companies. I got to tell you, in that moment, I wasn't sure what we were going to do. And so Stephanie and I went around and rebuilt our coalition of employers from scratch. And Rugi did much the same thing with our philanthropic partners. She went out there and made sure that we still had those relationships and they were strong. And we whipped up an emergency fund to make sure that we had some way of taking care of students and alumni who might need our support in that particular moment. And Leon and the program team completely reinvented the program from one day to the next, completely transformed it top to bottom, literally overnight. Now, the reason I bring this up is because now I can look back on that moment and celebrate it. I can see it for what it is, which is the fact that we were gifted an opportunity for greatness, and my team seized it. They seized that opportunity. We have a chance right now to seize greatness, to reinvent our businesses, to reinvent the communities into which we self-organize. And most exciting for me, we have an opportunity to reinvent ourselves as human beings, as people who participate in the society with the small choices that we make to accept our mantles in this moment, to accept our roles as stewards of this blip of American history that pertains to us. We have this wonderful chance to recast ourselves as agents of change, the agents of change that our generation warrants, that it demands of us. We've all heard this expression, the long arc of history bends towards justice, but here's the thing, it doesn't bend itself. It bends when we bend it. It bends because there's a critical mass of people who make these decisions to stand on the right side and bend it towards justice. That's the way it is today, and I imagine it's the way it was in 1968. To me, history reads just as a chronology of ordinary people choosing to make the decisions necessary to bend the arc of history. I want to call out a short story that we were privy to at Resilient Coders, one of the companies that has hired out of Resilient. The day after the murder of George Floyd, I guess the CEO put out a statement that their own employees found inadequate. Now, these employees, they found each other and they found their collective voice. They circulated a petition and they made it clear to their leadership that this moment demanded more than words. It demanded action. This was an incredible moment for me, for the empowered employee who's demanding more, who's demanding a deeper participation in this historic moment. And we have been playing the role that we can, we started writing our own playbook of how to agitate for change at your company, because we have to. Because it's this sort of groundswell that will allow us to advance, that will allow us to get to our ultimate goal, which is our own obsolescence. We want to be obsolete. And that will happen once we have a groundswell of activated employees who push their companies to change who and how we hire. I want to bring us back a little bit to that last demo day that I was mentioning back in April. At that speech, I presented a concern. And I was deeply concerned that what might happen is that some of our companies might backslide, right? And they might go back to hiring the usual suspects, like the folks that they were used to hiring over and over and over again, that they might say, look, this is a time of crisis. We don't have time to think about equity. We got to hire people who look just like us over and over and over again, because those are the folks that we think are going to code our way out of this problem. And I had a conversation with the board, actually, and I told them, look, we did really well last year in a tight labor market, but this is a different world. It's a completely different world, because we have a slackened labor market. We have a bunch of folks out there, let's say a bunch of technologists who have a couple of years of experience, traditionally white men with CS degrees, who are standing in line, maybe even willing to take a haircut to get back to work, functionally ahead of our students for those jobs, right? And geez, for us to place one student ahead of those individuals into a job will take a coup. That's where we were at last spring. But there's one thing that I had underestimated. We have allies distributed throughout the industry who are with us, who are themselves ready to stage a coup, who are ready to change the way their companies hire. And they came together. They came through for Resilient Coders, and together we staged 14 of those coups. And we had a similar experience with our philanthropic communities. We put out a statement back in the spring asking for trust-based philanthropy. We were saying to our partners, look, now is not the time to hang on metrics and reporting. Now is the time to just trust the communities who are on the ground, who are doing what they can to support the folks who are most vulnerable to the economic repercussions of this pandemic. But I don't think I had to write anything, because their heads were already in that space. They had already seized this moment for greatness. They had seen what was needed of them, and for that brief moment, they reinvented philanthropy to be something different, to be just neighbors helping neighbors, recognizing that we are all bought into this moment together. There's this beautiful quote that I love by Lilla Watson, who's an activist. She says, if you have come here to help, you are wasting your time. And if you have come here because your liberation is bound up with mine, then let's work together. And that's a completely different attitude. And that's what we were seeing in the spring. What this moment has snapped into focus for me is that maybe we have it in us to be that one Boston that people keep talking about. Maybe this is the moment, and maybe we are the people, and we can pull this off. Maybe enough of us are sick and tired of limping along in a bifurcated economy where white families have a net worth that is 31,000 times that of Black families in the same region. Maybe enough of us are ready to point to that and identify it as the deep systemic injustice that it is. And we can do that together. I really believe it. I really believe that this is an important moment. But it requires recognizing our collective vulnerability, because in it is collective strength. I want to recall for a second one of the most memorable opening lines to a demo day pitch that I've ever heard a Resilient Coder say. He said into a microphone in a room full of prospective employers, he said, I learned greatness in prison. It was bold. It was bold because he put himself into a position of vulnerability, but in that position of vulnerability, he found strength, and he commanded that strength. And that's where I want to put us back to tonight. I want to put us in a place where we can recognize the fact that this year we are all in a place of collective vulnerability, but in that collective vulnerability is collective strength, and that we have opportunities for greatness at our fingertips. Now, in a minute, I'm going to introduce you to 16 amazing software engineers. And we have an opportunity to see each other and to see our strengths. And I promise you, you will have no trouble seeing their greatness. Now, once again, I found myself with the immense privilege of having a lot of people to thank, especially in this moment where people really came together and rallied for what we are trying to do. I want to thank our employers who join us in our vision of a more equitable workforce. I want to thank our donors who join us in our vision of education as a potentially liberating force, as a civil right that as such must be radically free and freely accessible. We can't do that without them. I want to thank our mentors. I think you can really learn about someone based on what they give. And our mentors give us that most precious of resources, which is their time. The board also gives us their time. Thank you to the board and their wisdom and their efforts. I want to thank my team. A lot of people out there say they have the best team in the world. I actually have the best team in the world, and they exemplify greatness literally every day. Speaking of greatness, I also want to celebrate and thank our students who give this effort everything that they have. And then they dig deeper and somehow give more. I want to thank their families who support them in this process. And last, but definitely not least, I want to thank our alumni. You all are the movement. Well, my cup is full. I want to thank you all from the bottom of my heart. And without further ado, it's with an immense amount of pride and gratitude that I introduce you to 16 wonderful software engineers, starting with Andy Vasquez. Andy?
You could say that I was the chosen one, the one to build up all sorts of things following manuals, the one to decipher complex government documents I was too young to comprehend, resorting to dictionaries and Google just to learn and translate things appropriately. These experiences helped me become resourceful, gave me a drive that turned into gumption, questioning why, how things work. You could say I was that boy that asked too many questions. My parents moving away, and I had to take a break from computer science. But in time, with hard work, research, investments in cryptocurrencies, I was able to attain financial freedom. In reality, it was just a taste. But that did allow me to pursue other ventures like acting. After working on New York, as life takes its turn, but in the right direction, I decided to stop. And that was to welcome my home, my muse, my daughter, Ava May. Grounded, back in tech. At night, you could say I'm a ruthless debugger, but come morning, I'm a baby shark dance partner. I'm Andy. If you want someone with an insatiable hunger for knowledge, come stop by my table. So check out my contactless dining app. Thank you.
I'm Carolyn Diaz, and adaptability is my middle name. As a daughter of immigrant parents, I consistently had to wear many different hats. I was either translating at doctor's appointments, completing government documents, or helping my dad study his citizenship questions. Wearing these many different hats constantly pushed me to learn new things, from learning medical or legal jargon to now building full-stack web applications. Understanding the struggle that some immigrant families face is what motivated me to build my app, Radical. Radical creates a community with access to resources for immigrant families going through their immigration process. If you're looking for an adaptable and motivated employee who can bring change to your community and in your company, please come visit me at my table to learn more.
Growing up, I rarely saw my mother because she would work every day from 11 a.m. to 11 p.m. She came to America with nothing but her 2 daughters and a strong sense of will. The will to provide a better life for her children. Through her, I learned what it truly meant to persevere and to self-sacrifice for your loved ones. And because of her, I earned my degree in nursing, where I learned other valuable lessons such as teamwork, communication, and advocating for yourself. I worked in the healthcare field until I decided to pursue a different passion, which was technology. For my mother and for my loved ones, I will always strive to work hard in order to provide a better future for them, as my mother did for me. My empathetic background, determination to succeed, and strong work ethic help me approach every challenge with a human-centered approach. My name is Diana, and come meet me at a table so we can discuss how I can bridge my expertise, not only in healthcare, but also software development to help your company find a unique perspective. Thank you.
Unique adversities have shaped me into the person that I am today. At the age of 16, my life had changed when my family's political asylum case was denied, and I was the only one permitted to stay in the States. I could not be more proud of the struggles that I've turned into strengths. I quickly adapted to a new place and assumed financial responsibilities and commitments. This strengthened my problem-solving abilities. That being said, during that time in my life where I found myself adulting at 16, I saw a lack of resources, and quite honestly, I felt a lack of community. This was my driving force to create Neighbor, a platform that brings your neighborhood together. It promotes those human interactions with its ability to connect over a good deed. You'll see I'm a highly motivated individual who continuously seeks knowledge. You'll see my passion is to create and develop, and that I'm always looking to contribute. When you hire me, know I'll bring my tenacity along with my nature to genuinely help my team and our customers. See you soon.
The abilities to excel under pressure, to communicate, to lead and work with teams of varying sizes, and to think creatively when facing even the most technical of challenges. These are some of the qualities that are required to succeed both as a software engineer and in the music industry, and they are qualities that I have excelled at in my successful career as a classical musician. Now, I've long held a burning passion for computer science, and I yearned to share my unique skill set by creating applications that would make a difference in the daily lives of the people who use them. My project, Vote for What, is an application that allows users to easily search for ballot initiatives based on location and keywords, and to set up search notifications, maximizing the power and influence of the individual voter. My name is Gabriel Ramirez, and I look forward to chatting with you at my table, sharing my skills, and making a difference in your company.
Before learning to code, I studied and worked in the IT field. I later became passionate about coding because I realized I wanted to build rather than just fix hardware in IT. My skills in IT and even things like my AWS cloud certifications correlate really well with software engineering, especially my experience in modifying systems and making all the parts work well together. They also allow me to bring a really unique perspective and appreciation for problem solving and building amazing software solutions for your company. I also have an online business that I use Twitter. Recently, I did not have time to tweet all day, so I paid for services like Buffer to do it for me. After becoming a software engineer, I was able to use my new skills to build an app that would schedule tweets for me for free. This is who I am, a problem solver and someone who's really curious when it comes to tech. My name is Ibrahim. I look forward to helping bring your company's projects come to life. Come meet me at my table to learn more about me and my project. Thank you.
I can't help myself. In high school, I built my first computer. I had no one to help me, no resources to guide me through it. I jumped headfirst and made that happen. I got my computer. I took that passion of technology and joined the Marines because I can't help myself. I consider myself fortunate to be able to work on their networks and servers all over the world. And I'm thankful for that because it showed me what technology looks like when it's pushed to the limits. I volunteered my skills and experience in humanitarian missions, joint operations with allied nations, and even war, because I can't help myself. I'm not a stranger to stress, new environments, or learning under pressure. The Marines helped me understand what I loved about technology, but I wanted to have more control and creativity over what I worked on. So I set my goal to becoming a software engineer. My name is Jeffrey Marotta, and if you come to me with a challenge, you know that I'm going to solve it because I can't help myself.
It was the beginning of my last year in high school when I was told computer science was for nerds. It was then that I decided to pursue a career in STEM. Once in college, I enrolled in a cybersecurity program while also working in IT to provide support on campus. I created documentation that would help hundreds of students and staff to make their work more efficient. Now, as a software engineer, I'm looking to support the community that raised me. Promise, an application that helps not some, but all. I believe in giving one is raising one, and that information is always what empowers the one that are not privileged. That is why I aim to create a platform where any community can prosper. Come meet me at my table where you and I can discuss how we can create growth into our community.
I'm a resourceful problem solver. Coming from a family of 4 siblings and a single parent making only minimum wage, I've always been the one to help make sure that our lives are just a little bit easier every day. From being curious and always asking questions, at the age of 7 years old, I was able to find a new Mac Mini for my family by going to the local library and asking if they had any that they didn't need anymore. I still remember the look of horror on my mother's face the very next day when she caught me with a screwdriver in one hand and computer parts in the other. Not broken, but merely disassembled, I took apart the computer wanting to learn how every piece of the puzzle fits together. The very next day, it was back up and running with only my newfound knowledge as the lasting trace. So if you want a software engineer who's curious, resourceful, and an all-around problem solver, my name is Joshua Macklin. Join me at my table, and let's see how we can solve problems together.
No mistakes. As a former pharmacy technician supervisor, that's why I told myself whenever I had to make sure that mistakes would be solved before they harm someone. One wrong pill could cost a life, and for me, that will never, ever be acceptable. Now, as a software engineer, no mistakes is what drives me when I'm creating solutions to others' problems. For example, when I read that 10% of university students experience homelessness, I knew I had to do something. That's why I created Homie App, to help homeless members of our community get all the resources they need to survive. My name is Joshua Negron, and as you already know, I make no mistakes when creating meaningful code. If you would like to hire someone that makes no mistakes and always has the user in mind, come meet me at my table. Let's talk about my app, and let's see how we can create meaningful code together.
I hate when people tell me things are impossible. When they said it's impossible for girls to play with the boys, I said, heck no. And I went on to be the first female to finish a season on the boys' tackle football team. When they said it's impossible for a female to succeed in the strength and conditioning field, I said, heck no. And I went on to work with varsity athletes at BU and MIT who went on to win state championships. When they said it's impossible for a business to succeed during COVID, I said, heck no. And I went on to open up a facility and grow my business twofold. Then when they said it's impossible for a person to succeed in the tech fields coming from a non-traditional background, I said, heck no. And I was able to collaborate with over 20 engineers and hit weekly sprints. And now I've created an app for minorities who might feel like succeeding is impossible for them. Come meet me at my table to meet an engineer where anything is possible.
I am a flower turned gardener, the product of a life weathered and nurtured by diverse communities who instilled in me a need to create. My curiosity cultivated in me a need to explore beyond my plot, discover, and grow. I blossomed in varying fields. As a portrait artist, studying project management, interning at Harvard Law, and working in healthcare. My world broadened as I gained knowledge, strength, and confidence. I learned from these experiences that the most important component to healthy growth is community. I am a gardener who carefully plans and tends to a problem until the whole garden comes to fruition. The global pandemic has sprouted new threats to our communities. In response, I am providing a human-centered solution to our new world of social distancing. Introducing Tayo, a cultivating community application where users can learn and connect with each other through nature, where together we can continue to learn, grow, and create.
My goal is to create technology that allows us to focus on what really matters. This pandemic has lifted a veil on our healthcare system. Years of disinvestment has led to our hospitals unable to deal with the surge of patients infected with COVID. Many were turned away and sent home alone to deal with an illness they were unaware of. Though this is new to our society, this is an everyday reality for at-home hospice patients who choose to spend their time at home alone or with their healthcare takers on their final moments. During this time, it's usually filled with the development of new illness, new symptoms, as well as no way to communicate these new updates. That's why I created the app, Guided Passage. It's an app that allows our patients and our nurses to connect. Nurses are able to monitor their patients remotely, and they're able to communicate with their patients via chat on urgent matters. I'm using technology to connect, to center on empathy, comfort, and humanity in a way that we care for each other. If you're looking for a software engineer who has the heart and the skills to focus on what really matters, please come to my table on the second floor. Thank you.
For as long as I could remember, I've always had a passion for mental health. From a young age, I was fascinated with human behavior and the way people interacted with the world around them. I've also been the go-to friend for every single crisis. Empathy comes naturally to me, and compassion is my name. Literally, Rahma means compassion in Arabic. So in college, I studied psychology with the intentions of becoming a counselor before life knocked me off course and took me down a detour. However, my willingness to embrace change allowed me to find another way to fulfill my goals and my purpose. So becoming a software engineer has given me that freedom. My drive to tackle on social justice issues is the reason behind Let's Talk, my therapy app for Black people with Black therapists. I wanted to make therapy not only more accessible for Black people, but also help break the stigma for a community that could benefit most from it. If you want someone on your team who's passionate, driven, and people-oriented, I'm your go-to. Come to my table and let's talk.
Growing up in a small town in Puerto Rico, I always aspired to know more and to be more. As a little girl, you could always find me in the corner of a bookstore trying to cram science books, but leaving empty-handed because I couldn't afford to buy them. This determination to learn everything I could regardless of circumstance is exactly what led me to graduate at the age of 16 and pursue a career in chemistry. But during my first year of university, the unthinkable happened. Hurricane Maria devastated my island and destroyed our power supplies, leaving me to study with just a candle and a flashlight. From this, I learned that if I could overcome that, I could overcome anything, and my determination grew even stronger. Fast forward a few years, and this determination never faded. This same feeling is exactly what keeps me on the path to becoming a better software engineer each day. If you want to meet a software engineer that's fueled by determination, come meet me at my table today.
I love answers. Every year I'm up late coding the night before my birthday because there's no better gift than finding an answer and then finding a better answer. I'm always thinking about code, and this passion often leads me to finding my answer while I'm playing guitar, watching documentaries, or just cooking breakfast. I'll find my answer and then rush to the computer to see it work. But what defines my family loves to travel, so a large part of my childhood was spent in the backseat of a car. Now, I was still very passionate about answers, and the only question on my mind was, are we there yet? and I never got a response, and I passionately needed one. So I found an answer. I built this wonderful travel app to help you plan your trips and to help everyone find that answer as well. My name is Sean Charles. I'm a passionate software engineer who will do whatever it takes to find an answer. Meet me at my table to talk about how we can find the next answer together.